We grew up in Memphis when hot rodding was, Marshall really was before me, but when hot rodding was in its infancy, it was just getting rolling good. Drag racing was in its infancy. We were, learning about it as we went along. There was nobody was professional. It was when racing was fun. It was real. It was the perfect time. I believe we grew up in the perfect time on this planet to exist. I don't think there's ever been a time like it, and there'll be another time like it. And
we are all very jealous of that.
Yes.
Super bummed out.
Yes, we
You
are.
think that, and then somebody who's from that era comes in and they're like, you guys suck.
Your era is not nearly as cool as ours. Yeah. So for those of you that don't know, both of them were part of the Rodders, Memphis, or Memphis Rodders, depending on how people want to say it. And you guys started. There's been a little. I've heard people say 1948. I've heard people say 1947. Which one was it?
All right, here's a real scoop because I was there.
Absolutely.
In 1947, it was. Then times were so different than they are now. Racing was from the red light.
Right.
Every time you came to a red light, that was racing. Because it was so different because there wasn't all this traffic and everything. And if you had a convertible, that was a hot rod.
That's right.
I mean, it's different than everything else.
Yeah.
And very few people had convertibles. Well, then some of them was starting to customize cars a little. But this was in 47. The popular one then was a 40 Ford.
Yeah.
And they would take the running boards off and they would smooth the nose and the deck and everything, and they were custom. But really, the racing was stoplight to stoplight.
Right.
Well, in 47, a bunch of guys got together. There were actually 7 at the inaugural meeting, and they formed the Memphis Rodders Club. And then a few more joined before the end of the year. And at the start of 1948 was really when the Rodders really started.
Right. The official.
There's 2 left of the original year, Bruce Hale and myself.
Absolutely.
And then it grew from there. Now, the Rodders have accomplished a lot over the years. Building something then was entirely different than it is now. Nobody had any money.
Right.
And
I feel like that's still
I was
happening.
going to say,
everybody helped everybody. And I don't mean, I'll say you something cheap. You built a car, you scrounged it. Now, we didn't come up with the original idea of doing all of this. We would read about it, but there wasn't any big magazines or anything. Popular Mechanics and Mechanics Illustrated were really where you got most of your stuff.
Did you guys have the little pages here?
Do what now?
The little
little
pages? Did you have those here?
you mean the little hot rod books?
Yeah.
Oh, no, there wasn't no hot rod books.
Not until
They were-
about the
they were-
50s or
hot-
so.
They were too busy writing the
Hot Rod magazine didn't exist.
Right.
Yeah.
And we would race and we would race. And back in, I guess it was either late 49, it might have been 50, but there was an abandoned Air Force base at Halls, Tennessee. It was
Yeah.
the old Dyersburg bomber base. And we would all get together on a Sunday morning, and we'd ride up there with whatever we had. And it started, everybody was in a streetcar.
What did you have?
And it would take them apart. We'd take all the extra weight out. We'd take the tires off and the back deck lid off, and we'd loosen up the wheel bearings, and we'd take the water pump off. And then we would run, and we ran on a taxi strip, and the taxi strip was about a mile long.
Right.
Well, we laid out a rough quarter mile.
Right.
And then, but you would go through the quarter mile, but then you didn't let off.
You stay
And
wide
you
open,
Stay wide open.
Yeah, you got a
And
whole
then
mile.
you would make 2 turns and come back down the return road,
Wide
which was
open?
about wide open.
That's what I'm talking about.
And then people started building cars to run up there, and it got a little more competitive. There wasn't any admission. There wasn't any insurance. We didn't ask anybody any permission. or
Safety,
anything.
Just did
schmafety.
it.
That's right.